Hello, here we are again. Just the two of us. I think there's a song that says something like that.
So wonderful.
I Before we dive into this part two, I just want to share something. I was going to say how are you, but it's obvious how you are to me anyway. You just your light shining. It's fantastic. You really true to your name, sovereign. I can really feel that energy radiating, and that's so beautiful. But I just want to share with people who watch these videos that after part one, which if you haven't watched it, I really do recommend that you go back and watch that one. But what I that Shay had gone, and that you and I spent nearly 40 minutes talking after we stopped the recording. And you kept taking notes, and it was just so phenomenal that we ended up saying, oh my God, we got to do a part two. And so that is what we're doing today. And I'm really excited. So I'm just going to hand it over to you because you did take a lot of notes, and I know that you have really expanded in those 2 weeks into another level. So take it away, Sovereign. Let's look at once more ego versus soul path and how that affects us, and how it's that now playing out for us.
Yes, Yvonne. Wow. Well, the beautiful thing of this journey of life as a human being that I find is that when we express and when we proclaim and when we articulate and when we share what we are willing to bring into reality, what we are wanting to really activate, life says, okay, here you have it. And so these past 2 weeks indeed have been yet another catalyst for more embodiment. And that is really what we are looking at, is this, because of whatever happened during our early childhood upbringing, during the transition from the womb onto this earth plane, we have been brought into a misuse and an overuse of our intelligence just to keep us safe. This world that we entered into wasn't the rich, love-filled journey. There was pain, there was trauma, there was suppression of our freedom and will. And let's not go into all of the socially engineered programs around that today. It gave rise to our so-called ego mind, our overuse of the intelligence to keep us safe. That was really a reactionary, but an inbuilt, natural arising. It is a strategy of our own inborn nature, that when our nature gets repressed and suppressed, that there are other faculties that step into place to make sure that that doesn't necessarily happen again. And I really want to stress to people that this ego mind of ours is really performing a function with purpose. The best thing to do, though, is to question what that function really is. And if that function is to keep us safe from things not happening again, then it really benefits us looking at what are we still trying to not have happen again. That is just a imprint of our past. And if we are able to become willing to question the function of our emotional reactions, of our emotional projections, of those narratives about other, then what happens is that we get access to what is actually still stored there. And we can then start replacing that for stories that actually are true to where we are in the here and the now, because those stories of the past and those reactions that reoccur through our ego mentalities that are there to protect us, keep us safe, all of these things, they can become rescripted. And when they do, because the here and the now is the only place that exists, we get to embody more freedom. We get to embody that part of self that took responsibility to keep us safe in that particular circumstance around that particular trauma. And when people get that, then we can start seeing that our emotional reactions and projections and all of that head heavy thinking is really just performing a function with purpose, is actually an ally and can become seen as an ally for us to come home to more of our wholeness. And what that then does when we choose to embark on that soul path is that we bring the parts home that have kept us safe, that have done the protection, but also that have kept us stuck in those stories, stuck in those beliefs that reality is this and this, and that men are so and so, and that women are in the end always this and that. These are the stories around the primary he and the primary she, and predominantly they are the stories that we had to tell ourselves because of hurt around the world of men, around this cult programmed societal framework that didn't honor us, that didn't fully elevate us, that didn't fully see us, that didn't fully hold us in our fullness of being a human being on this earth. And so when we bring these parts back home, we rescript our stories. What happens is that our soul path that we came here for is opening up a whole new trajectory for us to express ourselves. And over these past 2 weeks, I again had the opportunity to look at some of those stories in my life, the stories of unworthiness, the stories of not even knowing my worth, and recognizing how construed those subtle belief systems were locked into programs that I was surrounded with. And as a child, I never had an opportunity to question the validity of that because that was simply what I was observing, but I was really just taking it all in. And particularly around the piece of my worth, as a child, it is so relevant for the grown-ups around us to see us, to acknowledge us, to say, I see you. Wow, I see you're exploring something new. This is so great. I totally believe in your capacity. I believe that anything that you put your mind to is within your reach. When we hear those affirmations, we grow. We get to be more courageous. We get to expand our territory of exploration. But for some of us, and in this case, in relationship to religious programming, my little story around my worth was not that my parents told me that I am like a pearl in the hand of my father and that he knows my worth and that I am so treasured by him. Instead, what I received is that I was like a pearl in the hand of God, that as a young child is this arbitrary father figure that I never met, never seen, never heard, and never spoke to personally. And this little pearl, all of my worth was up somewhere in the clouds. But this figurative person really saw me, really knew me, really I could confide anything to him and with him. But in the reality of my innocent world, there was no physical seeing and being able to believe that. And what happened in the process of such a simple song being pretty much on repeat in our house, it wasn't my parents that spoke directly to me about me being that pearl in their hand and that I am that treasure to them. Instead, that was outsourced to a place far away. And it has left me unknowingly very confused, very uncertain. And that was simply because I wasn't directly imprinted with those words coming directly out of the mouth of my mother and my father in relationship to my body, to me being here and me seeing them say that to me. And these examples of our worth being outsourced, these experiences of us not being seen as little children for the beauty that we are really has an effect. The real question is, though, is is around worth that anybody may have some sense of a struggle or issue with, is what do we do now in the present to reclaim that, to bring that back, to go up into that cloud and say, hey dude, I've been sitting in the palm of your hand all of this time. I didn't know that that was my worth that got lost a long time ago. um, Thank you, but no thanks. I'm going to take this pearl, I'm going to string it on a string around my neck, have it carried in my heart, have that come back to me. And these are the rescriptings that we can actively engage in that changes the subconscious belief systems that we didn't even know we were operating on. And there's work in that field, in the subconscious, in the unconscious mind, that runs most of our navigation, that runs most of the ways that we relate to reality. And when we are willing to recapture and re-access stories around worth, around our sovereignty, around our true nature, and we take it back from the place where it got locked, we go into that past narrative and we look at it as our grown-up self and we say, let's change this. Let's change this together with that little one and say, how do we actually, what is it that you really wanted? Well, for me, I wanted those words to really come from my mom and my dad to me. Well, I'm not going to call up my mom and dad these days and say, hey, this little boy is still wanting you to. I don't need my parents. I can obviously parent myself and parent that inner child very beautifully, because all that it needed to hear was a grown up to articulate and express, I hear you, I see you, and let's change this for good. And for me, that then is leading into a beautiful imaginary ceremonial unburying of this treasure, this energy of prosperity and abundance that has been stuck, buried in sand, that the little one wasn't able to uncover with his own small hands. And we change that story so that now there is a different storyline running there, and it is shifting so beautifully how I'm expressing myself, how people are relating with me, the amount of discovery calls that people are booking in that are all of a sudden saying, I don't know why, but I feel that I need to have a conversation with you. This is what gets unlocked. These are the doorways that unconsciously have been kept closed. And these are the doors to our soul path that we can start opening up. And we can do that simply by being willing to take those first steps.
If I smile any more than that, my face is going to ache. Because it, look, I'm just sitting here absolutely applauding you because, in our conversation last 2 weeks ago, one of the things that you said was that, I was talking about we are the creators of our reality. And you said, because I've just been listening to our previous recording and it's so valuable. I personally would like to watch it many more times. There's so many gems in it. And I will put it in the chat in a moment. But what I really, what you said was, yes, but everybody now knows that we are the creators of our reality. So why are people still in this state of victimhood, of lack, and particularly financially? And I'm sitting here smiling because in our private conversation after the recording last time, I asked you how many people were booked into your course. And the funny thing is, if I may just digress, a little bit further back, I've been sort of, pushing you a little bit off camera, going, "Come on, Sob, you've got all this wisdom. Why are you, sharing it?" And so, and you said, "Oh, 7." I said, "How many do you want?" And you said 50. And I went, "So?" It's like, so have 50. And then when I was actually looking at, a bit later at what you were posting and that you had 50, I just sat back and laughed and I was clapping and going, yay! So something shifted. Because when you talk about this lack of self-worth, it's not just, for you through religion, but for most people, it is through this, what you call education, because we're constantly told we're not good enough, right? The cross and ticks and bullshit and constantly, when you constantly, the goalposts are moved up higher and higher and higher. When you look at that, I've watched my children go through high school, etc., and that was bad enough. But today, what they're putting young people through to have them prove that they're good enough to go to the next institution of education is inhumane. And so we have all these young people that are so stressed and they're constantly trying to prove themselves more and trying to prove themselves more and trying to prove, and then some unseen power is going, nah, sorry, not good enough. And that is criminal. It is so, so criminal. So I just want to come back to this, this victimhood, because I wrote about it this morning. If I'm sounding that I'm a little bit more intense than usual because all day it's been blaring in my ear, that this idea of that we are not worthy, right? And the fact that we do have a sort of a vague memory that we are the creators of our reality, that we are the expression of Prime Creator, and we are the representatives in form of Prime Creator. But it doesn't go past here. And because we're so indoctrinated with this lack of worth, that we can't see that we are, by the lack of worth, creating lack of worth. And that blockage that we're looking at, you said, how come that, people aren't getting it? That, yes, we are the creators of our reality, not the ego personality. No, that's the one that's actually the saboteurs, because it's indoctrinated and infused with this lack of worth. But the soul, because the soul has absolutely no problem with that. It never asks the question, right? Because it is a direct source from creation. And it just goes, what are you on about? Just, let's go. Let's go. So we have sort of this two things going on inside of us. There's an inner calling that tells us the truth. But then there's that intellectual, misrepresentation that's been programmed by external forces that then says, no, that's too risky. No, and look, you're not really good enough. You're not good enough because you didn't pass that exam. Or, your friend, much better. Look at them. And look at what they're achieving, right? And look, you're nothing. So we have this dichotomy going on within us all the time. And for me, it's so criminal, because we are this incredible power of creation. And when we learn the simple process that what goes around comes around, and I'm going to say it again, what goes around comes around. So whatever you send out in thought and in vibration has to become. So if you want something that you don't have, change what you're sending out. I know it sounds really simple, and it isn't, because it means that you've got to go through this quagmire of bullshit. Bullshit, can we say that? Look, I'm nearly 83. I can say anything I want. So it's really important that we go, you know what? Everything you've told me so far is a lie. I don't care where it came from. And when you talk about your parents and not giving you your pearl, it's not that they didn't give you your pearl. They didn't have their own pearl. And this is why, Shay and I had this magnificent Absolutely heart-rendering, beautiful discussion last week. And if people haven't seen that, please see that, where he was so raw and magnificent. And we talked about ancestral, as we talk about intergenerational, trauma and the clearing of that. And it is really coming up for us now when we look at our parentage. And remember, well, I believe that we choose our lineage for the purpose of expansion. You say, everything has purpose with function, and we choose for a certain purpose with function our lineage because we're here to expand. And so when we look at ourselves and our lacks in life, and that can be lack of work, it can be lack of finance, it can be lack of health, lack of anything, we look at our lineage behind us and we look at our parentage and we go, so when they're born, they come with their challenges. But they also, we then take on what is left over that they haven't cleared. So every child takes upon itself to complete. But of course, we're unaware of that. So we drop into this victimhood, or we drop into resentment, or we drop, into blame and shame and all of those horrible things that keep us trapped down the bottom. And when you turn around and you look at your parents with the same love and compassion that we're needing to learn to look at the inner child, and you bring them home into your heart with the same love and acceptance and gratitude, then we begin to heal them. And that then goes back and that heals their parents and their parents and their parents. And that is how we stop the cycle. Because whatever we do not heal, our next generation are going to reflect it to us. And how many parents have this passion, they want their children to be better than them. So they're telling them what to do. What I know that doesn't work, so don't do it. Well, stop saying that. Go back and heal that wound so the child doesn't have to do it. And that is something we have to really, really get. So when I look at this victimhood at the moment, I wrote about it this morning, and it is just so pertinent. We are at the moment being bombarded with a new fear, because more and more people are waking up every day and seeing that they have actually got power. So all the powers that be that have controlled us for so long are panicking and looking for anything that they can use to bring us back in line, to bring us back into enslavement and into victimhood. And what do you think it is? Well, I'm telling you, have a look globally. All of a sudden, all the prices are going up. For what reason? Any reason? No. And who's doing it? Can you see? No. Somebody out there who's pulling the strings. What's the result? People are falling into fear of lack. They can't manage. They're losing their house. They're afraid to lose their house. Whatever they're afraid to lose. And instantly, that is a disease that's far worse than anything else that they could come up with. This fear of not coping, not managing, of not being able to have a decent life. We're the creators of our reality. So why are we buying into it? And that's where we're at today. If we know
So
that,
true, Yvonne.
if we know that, then why are we not creating? Because we forget. We get so trapped in the fear that we forget that what we send out, we bring about. So let's send out love. You talked about love before. Everything comes back to love. If it's not love-based, don't give it your attention. And is feeling unworthy love-based? No. Is feeling lack of abundance? Is that love-based? No. That give it no attention. Start looking at we are surrounded by so much on the outside and on the inside. We have these incredible creative gifts within us that are waiting to let out in service. And you are a perfect product of that. We are here. We talked a lot about free will last time, and we're definitely going to dive into that a bit more. But when we align free will with divine will, and we surrender in that with trust, we're all here to be of service to ourselves, to each other, to divine process. So for me, the time has come to really take back our power, to go up, not just to take back that pearl, because I don't see a pearl, I see a diamond. I see this amazing, multifaceted diamond that needs polishing, and every facet needs a good rub so that we can shine it out and blind anyone and anything that has the audacity to tell you that you have no worth. Yay. So I would like to say you have another course this weekend, and I'm about to just click here, and because I am putting the link right there that I would like people to go and have a look at, because boy, is this young man. Something I said the other day to people on the Brave New Life community chat. I said, having spent time with Shay and with Sovereign, I just feel that this is divine masculine in action. And if you two are an example of that, we are in very good hands. And I am so, so blessed for that. Wow, I have been rambling on some. But I want to talk a little
Great,
bit more
Yvonne.
about free will.
Those kind words.
Wow.
What sits in the way of that divine will meeting us in our center is us not having had our own will solidly and comfortably and peaceably sitting in our own center. And so there is a channel that runs through our beingness. We have an instrument. I call it our golden compass, that, as we spoke last time, at birth gets violated. It actually gets compressed. And nobody asked us if we wanted to be brought into this world with violence or with challenge or trauma. Of course, then later in life, it is how do we restore that golden compass? How do we re-enable our innate ability to be our own leader, to be our own sovereign being, to be the governor of this vessel and this consciousness that runs through us, and how to become, in that governing, a powerful agent to also allow the divine will to run through us. And the beautiful thing is that when we bring those parts home, when we dissolve all that trauma and we reprogram that dysfunctional programming, the need for that ego mind no longer performs a function with purpose. And so the pathway and the doorways for that divine will to run through us become more sensible, and they have more access to us, and we have more access to it. For me, recognizing how do we get other human beings to awaken to that awareness, to not just have it be something that they think, oh yeah, that's a lovely, inspiring thought to have. How do we activate people to take action on that? And I've really been sitting with that question for this past week. It's like, I could be reaching so many more people. I know that everybody on this earth is born to be a self sovereign human being that is born to have an expansive sense of freedom for their navigation. And yet, with the current circumstances and events of the Western world, it seems that we're giving a second round of opportunity to free ourselves of the confines and the contracts and the constructions of lack scarcity based on the need for control and the need to keep ourselves safe. And I really, really get the deep, deep challenges that can be there for people because I have lived through all of it. And I didn't myself have a guide in person that was saying to me on a regular basis, I see you in your sovereignty. And these are some of the pathways that you can take that are about that inner work, that are about rapidly shifting the programs of disbelief and misbelief into the prosperity consciousness, in the open minded renewal of your mind space where you can actually flourish and thrive and be so much more for the people that you already want to be something for, because we all are here to share our gifts, to share our qualities, to uplift others, to inspire others. Unfortunately, due to the programming, we're all operating in a little pond where we're trying to sell each other maybe some products that people may use in their kitchen. And really, we are so much more than product utensil shipping people or the delivery person for a service that just helps us cope. Let's just be honest about it. If we're not resolving, if we're not reclaiming, if we're not returning, and if we're not willfully engaging ourselves into becoming more of ourselves on a daily basis, well, probably we've not surrounded ourselves with people that are seeing us in our sovereignty, that are holding us in our sovereignty, that are really witnessing us in the unfolding. And this is something that I really want to start offering people, not just to be seen, not just to be held, not just to be a sounding board in which we can safely share from our feelings, to go that extra step and say, together, we can indeed offer each other so much more inside of a space where transformation becomes possible, inside of a space where transmutation of old systems of belief are all of a sudden available. As I said, I didn't have that sovereign in my life. I didn't have that soft and gentle, feminine, but real and even ruthless truth to reflect back to me that was still holding me from pure love. I was in my own search for sovereignty, looking outside of the world of man, outside of the world of masculine sovereignty and reclaiming our birth certificate. I was looking for answers based on love. And I found those answers in nature, in syntropy. And for me, it's really now that time to really let people know there is more available, and it is not a harsh and tedious and tiresome process. It is just a process of becoming willing to take that first step. And as I have come to understand, my journey would have been a lot easier if me, as the person that I am now, would have been there 7 years ago and said to me, hey, I've been through what you've potentially are able to navigate. And it doesn't have to be a 7 year just stumble and falling journey. This can be something that can be reawakened and reactivated in a much shorter time frame, because we don't have to sit and sulk and redigest and revisit everything that has once come to our path, that has formed us and shaped us and limited us in how we see ourselves. We can simply make a list of the things that currently aren't working, and one by one retrace the origin and rescript the stories But it starts with really a willingness to awaken the sovereignty from within. Because without us, as the individual, as the host of this biological field, if we are not willing to awaken the sovereignty from within, well, that sovereignty is just going to be waiting for the sovereignty to become called and willed to start rising to the surface, to become the the mechanism by which all of the disturbance that sits in the way of that comes out and up. And this is what feeling based relating is for. This is what truly supporting people one on one is about. We require, however, a roadmap. We require, however, knowledge and wisdom that is experience based and that has become embodied. And this is for me what awakening sovereignty as a workshop for the soul really is about. It is a workshop for the intellect to digest some really wonderful information and be like, oh, yeah, this is great. I really am enjoying this. But behind the scenes of the mentalities, there is an awakening of a deeper slumber that is being called to bring itself forward. And the ripple effects that I am witnessing with those people that have chosen to journey with me one on one, the ripple effects are just unbelievable. And they are unbelievable to the degree that the results that they are getting are showing up for them without them even anticipating it. They just have this weird curiosity arise in them. It's like, that never used to be like that. How did this all of a sudden become such a different experience? And it is simply by the rescripting, the recalibrating, and the real inner transformation of old stories and old beliefs held in trauma that are all blocking that sovereignty to rise again. And the call that I have for people, if they're listening to this, is to take that risk, is to take that courageous first little step to come into a workshop for your soul where you get to hear a whole bunch of nice information. But in the process, there is an activation that goes on that undeniably is going to change the trajectory that you can start embodying simply if you are willing to take that first step. Because the reality is, sovereignty is never going to fall out of the sky. Sovereignty is never going to be handed to you on a golden platter. The wisdom and the teachings that are being transmuted and that are being translated through this workshop is wisdom that lives inside of you, but we need to address it. We need to speak to it in order for it to become yours again, because it's just sitting there in a corner. And the reason for that is that there are so few people that are literally seeing you in your sovereignty and seeing that that wisdom lies within you and can speak to your inner wisdom for you to re-embody that, because that is what this work is all about: re-embodying the wholeness of all of you and all that ever got lost and left behind, and bringing all of that back into center so that new frontiers all of a sudden have actually the ability to make themselves known to you. This is about unclouding our minds. This is about renewing our mind gardens. And syntropy in that is a beautiful, beautiful metric that I haven't found out there to really transform the way that life becomes witnessed, the way that reality becomes experienced. And this is just on offer. It's just only getting started. It is hopefully going to bloom and blossom into a movement of people wanting to actually delve deeper into all of this with each other so that we can, for that next generation, rest assured within ourselves that we stopped that transgenerational hand down of trauma. We actually said, and this is the line, I am going to take responsibility for my ancestry and I'm going to do the work so that I can set free all of whom have come before me. And with that, we set free the generations that are still to walk this earth.
Wow. And this is just so powerful, and I'm so excited that you're doing this. But one of the things that you just said before, we're looking for someone to say, I see you. But of course, that is the thing that we've got to say to ourselves, I see you. And until we actually see that, if we can actually look in the mirror and say, I see you. And what I see, I love. And what I see, I am humbled by. And what I see, I am in reverence of. And what I see, I am willing to utilize in service for the good of all. And that is really the pathway, isn't it? That's the pathway we're looking at. And so it is exciting to see that, that you are embracing your soul path. And of course, for me, I have been doing that now for a very long time. And these days, I am available for private sessions, on Zoom or in person. And I do run a one-day workshop, which is local, and it is a transformational workshop. And but I was given a bit of an analogy just before we went on live, and because I always like to look at us as we are electrical appliances in an electrical universe, and when I look at that, I always look at how much voltage we can accommodate. And my team just said, hey, this is a really simple way of looking at the ego versus the soul path. Because ego runs on batteries. In other words, it runs on externally implemented power. But soul is plugged in to the infinite source and will never run out of power. So if you're constantly a human doing and you're out there looking for validation in the doing, without the cooperative co-creative partnership of soul and on your soul path, then you're running out of gas because your batteries keep running out and you have to get new batteries. But if you tune into soul path first thing every morning, which is, what I do, 5:30 every morning, well, that's if I have time and they're not yabbering in my ear as soon as I wake up, then I just, then I'm tuned in and the energy just continues to be. It's available all the time while you're on your soul path. But when you're in that state of mind of protection of the ego personality, like we are constantly being encouraged to be, we're running on an external energy source that keeps running out, like everything else keeps running out. Finances, health, every other jolly thing that you think you need, which is all living inside in a state of infinity. But what gets in the way is, as you say, the programming and the intellect that tells you that it all has a finite level where suddenly it's not going to be there anymore. But when you tune into your soul path, you know that that's all you have to do. You trust that divine energy, that divine will. And so the question that we're all being asked at the moment is, what are you doing with your free will? Are you giving that to an external source that takes you into and away from your truth and to that place of not good enough, of not having enough, not being enough, of whatever, all of the not enoughs? Or are you going to use it to be a conscious creator of your ability to direct your thought and your love core into a vision that will bring about the new earth of harmony, of peace, of love, of equality. If you think that we are here on earth and we are meant to be at war with each other, have a look within yourself. Where are you at war with yourself? We are here to expand consciousness. We are here as an external representation of creation. And what are we doing with it? It's such an enormous gift. And it all begins with the perception that we are given of who we are. And you talk about that, it starts at birth. I used to laugh and say, people look at the baby and they go, oh, he's got Uncle James's nose, poor thing. No, he's got his own nose. What are you talking about? We're instantly into comparison. Oh, he looks like his father. Oh, he looks like his mother. Oh, he doesn't look like either of them. Where has he come from? Instantly, it's like, who does he look like? Who does he remind you of? It is instant comparison. We start immediately with not focusing on what is. And when we look at that little being of creation, I have to say that it's changing so much. And when you think about, as a mother, I look at my children now who have their own children, and I look at them and I go, I had some input there. I created that. I helped to create that form. I was capable of creating a whole human being. If I'm capable of creating that with the help, of course, of the divine masculine, if we are capable of creating human life, what makes you think we're not capable of creating our bread and our abundance? Because we are told by some unseen force that we are not capable. Would creation create itself into form not to be capable? What was the purpose of that? The only reason that life creates life is for the expansion of life. So anything that we use our free will for that is not a life expanding is not in alignment with source creation. It is an entrapment of programming to keep us from knowing and being all that we are. And that is over only when you will it to be over. When I stop using my free will to say, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. I don't like it, sir, but you tell me I have to have it, sir. Well, I was never anyone that was able to do that, so I was a rebel from the get-go. But at the same time, I was a victim, a huge victim in the beginning, because all I saw was trauma. One human doing horrendous things to another human. And I thought that was what this life was all about. Until one day something in me snapped and said, no, not quite your path, darling. So I really encourage people to do whatever it takes to. If you had any idea how much I have sacrificed, and I'm not saying that so you think, oh, she's so good, but the sacrifice that we've had to go through to peel off the rubbish of programming, to find the authentic truth within, how often I've had to jump into the void of, I don't know where it's going to come from, but if my soul says that it's necessary, then I will lay myself bare. And I think what's really lacking in people today, because you asked what stands in the way, I'll tell you. I have a success formula in my book, remember? The Secret to Life. It starts with commitment. When I look at you, Sovereign, you have this incredible commitment to be of service, to support people to find that truth within them, which is the same passion that drives me every day. Until people can commit to that within themselves, that becomes the most important thing. To find that pearl, that diamond, that kernel of creation, they're just going to limp along. So my question is, what are we doing with our free will? Where are you giving it? Who's got it? Or is it yours to use for your betterment and the betterment of all into a new earth? What do you think?
Ah, so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it is sometimes lost on myself how committed I actually am to not a dream, but a feeling, a conviction internally that keeps me being willing to surrender the attachments to all sorts of made up ideas that we're all still held in some form of lack or scarcity or safety or security. And it seems that for me it had to be that way. And the life that I get to live through that is magnificent. And as any human journey, it has its ups and downs, and then all of it performs a function with purpose, just to refine, just to polish off another facet of that beautiful diamond, just to get another piece of the puzzle clicked in for more of that pathway of the divine will to be able to start flowing through. And the piece around commitment that a lot of people really struggle with, and that I have told myself I struggle with in practical navigation, really is tied into the same compass, that same golden compass that literally is driven by you being willing or not willing. And it is that commitment to growth. It is that commitment to the journey. It's that commitment to being willing to show up for whatever shows up. And it's the willingness in that to let go of what we thought was relative safety or relative security or relative. We can never get more of what's beyond the point of a, a fork in the road, what I call a choice point. We can never intellectually, we can try as best as we can, strategize out what happens if I say yes to that, and what happens if I say no to that, or where would I end up? It's that isn't surrender. That isn't actually willfully being committed. The willful commitment comes with surrender. We cannot will change. We can become willing to welcome change. We can be willing to experience change, and then change will come and come into our experience. But we cannot direct our will in a simple matter of I will it to have this new life experience, unless you're very, very, very clear on what that exactly looks like. But then you're just rendering another program out of your mind that is just the pretty picture of what we want to accomplish. There is a divinity in us that knows what is actually true and what is actually in alignment with being a spiritual human being in a body on this earth. And it has so little to do with all of the practical navigation involved in the matrix. It has zero things to do with what happens in a supermarket, or the shopping list, or the petrol that you need to get, or the job place that you need to maybe find. Or the soul growth comes about by us overcoming those struggles and letting go of the fear-based attachments to the narratives that are all constructs of beliefs. We have to become willing to undo the programming, to see through the illusions and distortions of scarcity and lack. And there's a path for that. And it starts really with awakening our inner awareness of our sovereignty. But it doesn't stop there. This awakening sovereignty is just the start, because the sovereignty that I speak of, you can never get to. What happens in the process of awakening sovereignty willfully is that your sovereignty begets all of you, slowly but surely, all of you, of what you thought you were, as a label, as a title, as a person, as a function, as a something, as an idea of ourselves. Our sovereignty reclaims all of that, where none of those narratives or titles really are holding any value per se for ourselves on an intellectual level. We actually become free of needing to have titles and ideas and concepts and constructs so that we can master discussions and arguments can be won. We become reclaimed in the process of us awakening willfully our sovereignty, because our sovereignty is directly tied to our divinity if it isn't just enshrined within it. But we have to pierce in and pierce through our programming to awaken, to sprout that seed. But when that seed becomes reawakened, it starts reclaiming all of us, all of you and all of me. And that may be a scary process, but I can tell you one thing: it is a glorious, glorious journey that is more rich, it has more depth, it has so much more meaning, and it shows that there is so much more to this life on this earth, to our human family of love, and that we can become runners in that, that we can become activators in that, that we can become awakeners of others from the dream state, from the dream spell, from the programming and conditioning, back into the alignment, so that what our soul came here to be, what that soul path is absolutely here for, can actually become expressed.
Mm. Absolutely. It's just so beautiful. And I'm with you, more people ought to hear what is being offered. And the right people will come to hear it from whoever is sharing it. In the chat, I have put down the link to your workshop, and I've also put the link of part one of this conversation. And, if anyone wants to connect with me, then they can do that through my Facebook page. And it is a journey. It is this journey. When you talk about the richness of and the depth of how we experience life today in comparison to how we experienced life when we, had are focused only on making ends meet and getting the kids to school and all of those things. And yes, we still have to do those things, but it has a different meaning, it has a different depth. And so yes, I still have to go and do my shopping, and the maintenance of life takes time and energy. But it is when you go in that place beyond the metaphysical world, where we see everything in a broader manner. There's always a bigger picture. There's always a deeper meaning. There's always a message. There's always a reflection that is offering us something new, something that we haven't found within ourselves. And there is no end product to, or end destination to to our sovereignty, to finding our true self until, we reunite with Source itself. And that is a journey that we're all on. And so I just feel so deeply for humanity and with humanity right now and with this planet, because it's not just humanity. This is a spiritual war that has been going on for eons, and we are in the end days, and there's just so much energy, fragmentation, and there's so much information that we're being bombarded with to try and distract us of our path and of our truth and of our commitment. And commitment, dedication, determination, right? Discipline. It takes all of those things for us to be our truth and the light and the love that we are. But when we surrender to that with our free will, doors open and visions come forward that are indescribable. And once we go there, we want that for everyone. And that is why I keep showing up, you keep showing up, because if only one person decides to change their life for the better because of this video, then I'm already humbled. But I tell you, whose lives are being enriched by it most right now, this moment, is you and I. Because we are fully in our truth. And anyone who is watching this, if they can tune into that and feel the authenticity and the love that we are both radiating out towards you, the viewer. And I would like to make a promise that if you have the courage to go on this hero's journey, oh my goodness. That's all I've got to say. So once more, I want to thank you, Sov. I love the energy that we create together. It is pure love, always. And I know, I have a feeling that in not too distant a future, I might actually be able to give you a real hug. I don't know. I'm just getting pulled a little bit towards Bali there. But who
Well,
knows?
they were communicating to me just earlier. There is a beautiful retreat that people can come into with you, and I'll show up there, of course. Um,
I think we'll
it
do it
is
together.
inevitable that that is going to take place, because
I
it
think
is when we are in physicality that transformation beyond transmission from a beautiful conversation becomes, it's the space that we drop into, and it's the time frame and the container in which that is then all set aside, where we don't have to think about going to the supermarket, and we don't have to think about the kids having to go to school, or whatever it is that you may have in your life. Taking that time out is so beneficial, and I'm getting the nudge that that that's in
well,
the book.
let's just say watch this space.
Watch this space, everyone.
Until we come together again, I love you. Thank
Love
you
you
so
too.
much for sharing this time with me and with the viewers. So be very particular about what you do with your free will. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.